Alright, welcome everybody to another video. We're going to be looking at the leaked stats of the HMS Hood. Basically this ship, from my understanding, is already in the hands of the super testers. That's how we're able to get these stats. Alright, let's take a look at gun basics. As you can see here in the top left corner, we've got the gun basics of the tier 7 ships. The highlighted section is going to be the best of each stat. The left stat line is going to be the caliber, or excuse me, the millimeter of the shells fired from the guns. The middle is going to be in seconds the reload time of each gun, and then the third column there is going to be in seconds the traverse time for the guns to rotate a complete 180 degrees. As you can see here, the hood at the bottom, 381 millimeter guns, 30-second reload. That's pretty much what everybody expected. They are Warspite guns. But we are going to get a buff, a major buff, a 12-second buff in the rotation time of the turrets. So that is, even though it's not great, it's obviously the worst on the list here, worst out of the tier 7s. It's definitely better than the Warspite's 72-second traverse, which is just painful, especially since the Warspite turns so well. We'll take a look at the maneuverability of the hood here in a little bit, but 60 seconds on the traverse, worst of the tier 7s. Alright, we're going to go ahead and look at gun accuracy. As you can see here through the tier 7 ships, a lot of the ships have a very good Sigma rating. Obviously the lower Sigma rating, the more inaccurate the gun. So the higher the Sigma, the more accurate the guns, or the more, let's see, how do we put it, a good grouping. The hood there with a 2.0 Sigma rating. The second column is going to be dispersion. It's the maximum dispersion of a full broadside. As you can see here, the hood's pretty good, 219 meters for dispersion. I didn't put meters next to the numbers I should have. Just slightly behind the Colorado in accuracy. If anybody's captained, I guess that's the right word, captain the Colorado, you realize that that gun is a laser. It shoots lasers. It hits pretty much exactly where you want, obviously if you aim correctly. So it's a laser, so the hood's guns, pretty much just like the Warspites. Alright, we're going to talk about the gun range next. You can see here the tier 7 guns with their max range. Something that I thought was going to happen. I thought the Nagato was going to get a nerf to the gun range, but nope, we're still here at 20.5, so she leads the tier 7 in gun range. As you can see here, the hood, this is the main focus of our video, the hood at 17.6. It did get a buff. Even though it has the same guns as a Warspite, we're going to get a buff of, what is that, 1.3 kilometers. Obviously, well behind any of the other ships here in tier 7, as you can well see. But 17.6, you're probably going to have a spotting plane, so you'll be up there with the rest of them with a spotting plane. Still a little disappointing. Moving on to the health of tier 7, and wow, I mean, we expected this. I expected this, rather, just judging by the size and the tonnage of the hood. 67,700 hit points. That is best for the tier 7s. I'm glad they did that. I was hoping closer to 70,000, but 67,700. That's a good number. We'll be looking at armor now, and this is going to be the most exciting stats that we're going to talk about here in this video. The hood, she doesn't lead in any category as far as belt to deck armor, but she's not bad. 305 millimeter belt armor, 51 millimeter deck armor. They did not give her the flimsy deck armor that I was fearing that they would. They actually gave her a decent deck armor, as well as you can see down there in the blue, an underwater citadel. No above water citadel. So they're actually going to make the hood a little tanky. When you talk about the armor, the health pool, we'll have to see how how they do the armor as it's laid out in the ship. I'm not really sure on how they're going to do that yet. Now we'll be talking about the speed, and they buffed the speed, at least for now. They did buff the speed. It's going to be tied for best with an Eisenhower, 32 knots. 32 knots. So you're going to be able to run away if you have to, run to get some cover, or come out firing and not much can run away from you. So 32 knots, well above the Colorado and the Nagato, way down there in the low to mid 20 knots. So 32 knots is going to be good. All right, now in my opinion, the most disappointing thing about the Hood is this maneuverability. In my first video, we stated that I was thinking it might be a quick, nimble ship, but I thought it wouldn't have good armor, but they gave it good armor. So this is where you're going to take the hit. This is where it gets balanced. It's going to be the maneuverability. 910 meter turn circle. 910. Ah, man. It is the longest, biggest tier 7. So, yeah, 910 meters turn circle. It's massive. This is Iowa massive, Montana massive. It's just massive. It's like the shores. I think that's how you pronounce it. The Russian tier 7 piece of crap. It can't turn, and it gets worse with the rudder shift. 15.8. I was really hoping for a 12 or a 13, but nope, 15.8. All right, moving on to some just additional thoughts here before we close out the video. The AA rating, the DPS on the guns looks horrible. Not at all what I had thought it would be. It has a lot of guns. They just don't do any freaking damage. I mean, judging by the DPS, you're probably going to be looking at a rating of 40 to 50 in the anti-air rating. So, not very good. Consumable, looks like it's going to be having defensive fire, which it desperately needs if it wants to keep itself from getting torped. I mean, but judging by that turn circle and the rudder shift, I mean, you're just going to eat them. You are going to eat torps all day long. It's just terrible. So at least it has defensive fire to try to help that out anyway. Concealment, not great, not bad, average, 16.2 kilometers. Definitely should take a concealment expert, try to get that down around 14 or so. That's way too much for the maneuverability of it. So you need to get that down a little bit, give yourself a little extra protection. Secondaries, pretty much non-existent. 5 kilometer range is definitely nothing you would spec into. Maybe if you're trying to boost your AA, you do advanced fire training, which would get your secondary range up as well. Maybe. I don't know. It's going to be interesting. All right, let's talk about the conclusion. As you can see here, I put down Jack of all trades and master of none. And that's what you're looking at. You're looking at a ship that is just average. It's just average. The only category that's not average is the speed. It's the fastest. It's got a good health pool. But then again, the health pool, you're not going to be able to maneuver. You're not going to be able to get out of the way of torpedoes when you need to. You're not going to be able to do any type of, what do they call it, WASD hacks or whatever. You're not going to be able to dodge really any shells. I mean, you're going to put this sucker in a full turn, and 10 minutes later, you're still going to be freaking trying to get your ship turned around. Not to mention, when you're in a turn, your freaking guns aren't going to be able to rotate. Well, actually, come to think about it, who knows? Maybe the turning circle is so bad so the guns can actually keep up with the ship turning. Maybe that's what they were thinking. I don't know. But it's definitely what we're getting so far. Just keep in mind, this is all super tester stats. I think it's just going to be average. I really do. It's just going to be, right now anyway, it's just going to be an average tier 7 battleship. But nonetheless, it still is the HMS Hood. It's still one of the most well-known ships ever to have sailed the seas. And I'm still going to buy it first day. I just want the Hood. That's it. I just want the HMS Hood in my port.